Okay, let me start our recording here. Okay, muy bien. Y buenos días. ¿Y qué día va a llover? Wow, está nublado. Es en febrero, qué raro. Bueno, we are going to, what are we going to do today? We are going to do some small group work with your new sentences. And I asked you to take some of the phrases from the latter half of the 10 useful verbs and check that out and make some examples. And so we're going to have you do that today. We also have, uy, ¿dónde está? Where is it? Okay, we're going to continue a little with some of the pictures I gave you from the mayor versus más grande from last week, and we'll kind of finish up with that idea, take any questions that you have on that. And we've got a prueba de trivia. We got our trivia game. After that, I do want to start something which actually normally I kind of avoid, but it's probably a good time to talk about it. Little thing about, what does it really mean when you use an accent mark? How do you know? And I don't really encourage people to write out whole thing. I always think of accent marks as a written thing, and they are, but they happen for a reason. And as you do more reading and listening, it's actually good for you to know why accent marks happen and see examples of when they do happen, when they don't happen. Why do we use them? When don't we need them at all? Because there are actually some pretty set rules about that. Okay. We're going to open with a little thing here before we get into our second half of the 10 verbs that you should use. We're going to take a look at something that Nora got in her email. Para que sepan, so this was kind of an ad she got. I don't know what to say. Yeah, the ad from the legislature here. Well, not the legislature. That would be wrong. A desire to fix some things connected with education in our state. Since she does some sub-teaching from time to time, I imagine that's why she got this email, but it was a good example, and it's actually got some accent marks. So did I send you I think I did send you this. See, I did. Yeah. Okay. But we'll take a look just so that you know. And this was, it's long past. So it's got a schedule. Hay un horario que ya se pasó. It's already passed. But, the kind of the...
Wasn't that March of 23?
No, martes, Tuesday.
Sorry.
El 7 de febrero, yeah. So, okay. We're just going to do, and I'll try to make this, trato de engrandecer esto un poquito para que sea más fácil de leer. Ciertos líderes, and ciertos is an adjective that comes in front of líderes because ciertos just talks about quantity, right? And the quantity adjectives don't follow the nouns. The quantity adjectives come in front of the nouns, right? Muchos or pocos, and in this case, cierto, certain. It kind of, in a vague way, talks about amounts. Certain leaders in legislature of the state of Arizona, and I can't highlight this because I had to clip it together, are adopting a policy regarding to kids, on behalf of kids, that is not acting to, that is not functioning, not actuar, is not functioning to fix the aggregated spending limits. So that's what that was about. Schools are at risk of losing more than schools are at risk of losing more than $1 billion by the 1st of March. And here you see a really interesting use of the word para. Para means for, but para has a lot of functions beyond the idea of for. Para indicates deadlines. So when we combine para with a time limit, in this case, el 1 de marzo, the 1st of March, it means by the 1st of March. 1st of March is the deadline. Para with a period of time after it indicates deadlines, okay? Para is a word that you should think of not just meaning for, but it indicates an end point, a destination, un destino. So by the 1st of March. So there's going to be a risk of losing money with the schools by the 1st of March if the legislators do not act, do not take action. Le invitamos a nuestro próximo evento. We invite you to our next event. And again, próximo it comes in front of evento because here it doesn't talk about amount. It just says next, and next doesn't really paint a picture of what it looks like, that word evento. So it comes in front of it. The next learning event online. So there are a lot of little interesting things here where you're going to see little accent marks, and you'll know by the end of class. You can go back over that and see why accent marks happen, but we're going to talk about that.
Marilyn, can I ask you a quick question?
Sí, claro.
There's a word in there that if you go back up, I'm going to show it to you. I was totally right there. Aprendizaje.
Aprendizaje, learning.
Learning.
It turns out como sustantivo, as a noun. That word is learning as a noun. Learning is important for all young children. Aprendizaje, el aprendizaje es importante para todos los niños. Aprendizaje comes from aprender, but it's the noun form of the verb aprender, if that makes sense. ¿Sí? Bien?
Yeah, it was just an interest. I was guessing that, but then I couldn't figure out what the Z-A-J-E was.
Yeah, that is just, it's a suffix, and the suffixes that, and a suffix is just an ending we stick on to the end of a word, right? A prefix is a little appendage that we stick onto the front of a word. And we have suffixes and prefixes in English as well. There are no routine, here is a rule, this will always be used kind of suffixes in Spanish to turn a verb into its noun form. They will differ from word to word. You just kind of have to know, and we have the same thing in English, we can say suffering is an unfortunate thing in the human experience, right? And it becomes el sufrimiento, and sufrir changes into sufrimiento. Miento changes sufrir into the noun, and this Z-A-J-E just changes aprender into a noun. That's what it does.
Thank you.
But yeah, de nada. But over next week, do kind of go back and check out some areas where they've got accent marks, because that'll help you see what happens with accent marks and how that happens. And before I totally forget, I need to advise everybody that next week, Monday, is a holiday. We do not have class. Hoy es el 13 de febrero. So before I get too far in and I forget, we will not meet next Monday because, Dia de Presidentes, it's President's Day. So, okay. But that was a kind of an interesting little bit. Oh, one other little quick thing I wanted to show you here. This is kind of a thing that has started to happen. Normally, we do not capitalize days of the week and months of the year in Spanish, para que sepan, so you know in writing. Martes should be a little M, febrero should be a little F. And this is one of those things that is kind of a regional thing, and it's there are starting to be certain areas. I've seen Colombians do this. I have seen some other areas where they start to capitalize it like we do in English. Technically, that's a no-no, but it's becoming more accepted. I don't know, influence of English? I'm really not sure. There are people whose hair absolutely stands on end from seeing those words capitalized because it's technically not done, but you do see it bleeding into Spanish in certain regions here and there. And this is one where that definitely happened. My suspicion is that that's a bleed in from somebody who speaks English really well, translated this, and because they're used to it in English, it started to bleed into the Spanish. That sometimes happens. Okay. But normally we do not capitalize days of the week and months of the year. It doesn't matter for okay.
And while you're briefly talking about calendar stuff, if you haven't noticed, I'm sure you have, but 2 weeks from today is the opening of registration for the whatever the spring is. That spring?
They call it spring. Yeah.
Yeah.
It'll be the last Monday of February, right? Yeah. They'll have online registration will start that day. And if you live outside the city limits of Scottsdale, if you live, right on the other side of the border in Phoenix or someplace else, it'll be Tuesday. That will be. So that'll be what, the 27th? Yeah. 27. I did get a notice about that. So gracias, Marcos. Thank you. Because it's good for us to know that. Okay.
Do we have to re-register for this class?
Sí.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
Sí. Yeah. Just same one. We'll keep going. We'll do different things all the time. Okay. I had asked you to take a look at some of the 6, 7, 8, 9, 6, 7, 8, 9. 6, 7. Let's put those up. Aquí vamos. Let's see if we can create some sentences. 6 es gustar. 7, ir. Necesitar. Y 9 was the other one. Sí, 9. 9, decir. Okay. So I had asked you to create some sentences of that. Remember, gustar, out of all of these, out of gustar, ir, necesitar, and decir, out of those 4 verbs, gustar is the oddball out of the group because you will not use it as gusto or gustamos. You will use it as gusta and gustan, right? So that's the oddball out of that group of 4 verbs. So you need to have examples like what you had here. It needs to be a singular because it really means to be pleasing. So a thing or an activity is pleasing to somebody, and the little pronoun in front of it tells you who likes it, right? Gustar looks at the thing that is pleasing, the thing that somebody likes, because they don't have a verb that means likes. And so it'll be gusta if the thing that is liked is singular. It'll be gustan if the thing that is liked is plural. And the little pronoun in front of gustar tells you who likes it, right? So their structure is different than ours because they technically don't have a verb that means to like. to like a thing, nobody really says technically, I like winter in Arizona. They'll say winter in Arizona is pleasing to me. And that is why it has to be gusta, because it cannot be gusto. Gusta would mean I'm creating pleasure in somebody else. So you want to avoid that. So me gusta singular, me gusta el invierno en Arizona. Me gustan las películas de acción. I like action movies. There it has to be gustan because películas plural, movies is plural. But with activities, we keep gusta singular, no matter how many activities you have. Okay, if you like doing something as opposed to liking an item, it is me gusta ir de compras. Bien? Okay. So I would like you to play around with those ideas in some smaller groups. Come back if you have ask any questions if you have them. ¿Cuántos grupos? Cinco grupos, quizás, maybe 5 groups. Sí, bien. Some of you will be in groups of 2. Some of you will be in groups with 3. I think only 5 minutes, 5 minutos, ¿verdad? Yeah, for this? 5?
I think so.
Yeah, because you had time to prep it. So I'll put in that page so you can see those verbs when you go into the small group.
Okay.
Let me get my share screen. Breakout room. And magnifico. Y 5 minutos, 5 minutes. Pam, if you want to practice just with me on some of those 5 verbs, were there any examples you were able to make up?
Hi. I don't have any privacy here today.
Oh, okay. Perdón.
Yeah, actually, I
That
have
happens.
my mom is here from Ohio, and so but I don't want to fall too far behind. So I did do my homework the other day, but I'll run a couple of these by you, okay?
Okay.
And
Yeah.
but I'm going to have to listen for the rest of the time.
Okay.
Okay.
That's perfectly okay. Gracias.
Okay.
Perfectly okay.
So,
Everybody, yeah, we all have moments where that happens.
Oh my goodness. I mean, really.
That's okay. Está bien. It's okay. You'll learn from listening to it. Do you have any quick questions before you?
Well, let me see if, let's see here. 1 second.
The one that might
Okay.
have given you trouble would have been decir. That one would have been a tough one for you.
Okay, see if these make sense to you. Okay, so using gustar, okay?
Okay. Mm-hmm.
So, me gusta beber café con leche.
Perfecto. Perfecto.
Me gusta caminar con mi perrito afuera.
Excelente.
Is that okay? Okay.
También perfecto.
Now,
Sí.
So for ear, does this make sense? Vamos a, I don't know how to say Greece. Is it Grece? Grece for Greece. Vamos a Greece para una vacación en el septiembre.
El país, the country.
Yes.
Vamos a Grecia. Grecia. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. The pronunciation of that would sound a little bit funny. Grecia. Grecia. Vamos a Grecia.
Para una vacación en el septiembre.
Para las, yeah. And the only thing I'll correct there, and this is a minor thing, somebody would understand you, is vacación is always used in the plural. I can't tell you why. It just says, yeah. Para las vacaciones. Para las vacaciones. But
Okay.
that's one of the NBD, no big deal mistakes. Because
Okay,
you got the word vacación, they would know, oh, that's what you mean. It's just a little
Yeah.
bubble. Yeah. Oh,
Okay.
sí. Excellent.
Okay. And then for necesitar, I put necesitar ropa para el clima caliente. Like I
Okay.
need clothes for the hot weather.
And now you need to do something with that necesitar. Necesito,
Okay.
I need.
Oh, necesito.
Yeah, you need to do something
Right.
now. So with that verb, necesitar, it's going to obey all the
Okay.
rules. It's not like gustar. Necesitar, and this is a good one for you to know. Necesitar will tell who needs it. So it'll have to go into a form. Yo necesito, right? Tú necesitas. Let's say you're talking to your kids. Necesitas ropa para el clima caliente. You need some warm weather clothing, okay? Necesitamos, we need. Necesitan, they need, right? So that will have to go into a conjugation in all those different forms, depending on who needs that item.
Okay, got it. So if I need something, it's necesito.
Exacto.
Okay. Okay. That makes sense.
Eh.
And then the last, let's see, the last one was
Oh,
decir.
decir, that's a tough one. That could have given you trouble.
Okay. What did I write here? Okay. Wait a minute. Okay. Okay. I don't know if this makes sense. El digo mi esposo que no tengo dinero en mi, how do you say purse? ¿Cómo se dice purse? en
Bolsa,
español?
bolsa,
Bolsa.
bolsa.
Does that make sense?
Uh,
Like I tell my husband when I don't have money in my purse.
Okay. And now I'm going to give you a little clump of words that always hangs together
Okay.
when you want to say, I tell him. Because what you're saying,
Okay.
if you're going to say, I tell my husband, right? You're telling him. And there's a
Yeah.
little word that people, native speakers, will always use in front of the digo. The digo is I say or I tell. That's good.
Okay.
But generally, people don't just say, digo a mi esposo. Now, would somebody understand you? Sí. They would understand that. But usually, digo is kind of has a naked feel without the little pronoun. Oh, I'm going to get my arm right in front of it. So it has to be le digo a mi esposo. Le digo a mi esposo. Le digo a mi esposo means I tell him.
Okay.
And
Okay. Okay.
just so you know, so les digo, I tell them. The little word les in front of digo will mean I tell them. Okay.
Okay.
Te digo, I'm telling you. Right. And we're not going to say me digo because I don't tell myself. And maybe you do, but you know, yeah. Okay.
Okay.
Magnifico. I'm going to bring everybody
Thank
back.
you.
If you need to go on silent for that, that's okay.
I am. Okay. Thank
A
you
lot
so
of people
much.
do, especially when they got company, when they got workmen. That happens. So, okay. We got,
Yeah, that's going to be going on too.
that happens. Close
it.
breakout rooms. Here we go. We're going to close those out. And everybody will come back and we'll get some questions and examples and all that good stuff.
Okay.
And people have about 30 more seconds to finish up. So try to make this a little, nope, a little bigger. Okay, can't make it too much bigger. I can't fit it all on the screen. And I think we should be getting people back in soon. Aquí vienen. Here come more people. Aquí vienen más. Here come more people. Okay. Vale. Bueno, aquí vienen todos. Here comes everybody. Excelente. These are good verbs. This little slide I had originally sent you a couple weeks back on 10 of the most used verbs is really, really helpful because we use them in specific situations that come up literally all the time in our normal conversations with people. And this is the backside of that. Liking to do, like when we want to say you like doing something comes up all the time. Ir, we always talk about going places. It's part of our daily lives. And ir plus a plus an infinitive always tells you future. So you don't need no stinking future tense. There does exist a formal new conjugations, different rules, future tense. That does exist. But in everyday chit chat, people usually don't use it very much. It's used more in formal writing. It's used in speeches. For example, newscasts, because that's kind of a formal speech setting. You might hear future tense. But every day, people will use ir, a, infinitive. Voy a cocinar. I'm going to cook. Voy a arreglar el carro. I'm going to fix the car. People will always use this to talk about the future. So that's why this is on the 10 most used, because we go places all the time and we talk about what we will do soon all the time, right? Necesitar is useful for travelers when you need something. That goes into all the conjugations. And decir, well, we very often include in our speech, oh, somebody is saying something or telling something. So,
Una pregunta, por favor.
Sí, dime.
Sí, gustar. I looked this up because I wasn't sure how to say take care of.
Cuidar.
Cuidar. And it said, para cuidar de. So, me gusta cuidar el perro de mi hermano.
Okay.
Is that good enough, or does it? Or in this was explaining, me gusta para cuidar del perro.
You don't need a para there.
Okay.
Me gusta cuidar. I like when you like doing an activity. We don't need that word para in there. Okay. So me gusta cuidar al perro. Probably you'll say al because a doggy there is a near and dear fur baby. It's somebody's fur baby. Yeah. If it's any old animal and it's living outside, you won't use an a, but this is somebody's near and dear fur baby. So we'll have an a. Me gusta cuidar al perro de mi hermano. And
Gracias.
now, is it a big deal if you forget the a? It's an NBD, no big deal. Everybody will understand what you mean. It'll sound a little like, oh, doesn't he love that doggy? The little means he loved that doggy. Does he not love his dog? Maybe, but will they understand your meaning? Yes. So remember, little things like that, don't let them trip you up. But we don't use para with gustar. It'll be gusta and the verb.
Gracias.
Me gusta preparar, me gusta preparar un buen café. I like to fix a good coffee, a good cup of coffee. Okay. Me gusta preparar, but not me gusta para preparar. Okay. Muy bien. Otras preguntas. Are there any other questions that came up with this? Sí, Marcos, dime.
Yeah, our group had a question that involved the use of for versus para. And I'll give you what I recall was the example I tried to put together. No me gusta hacer los ejercicios. I said para mi rodilla.
Okay. Sí. Para mi rodilla. Es esta parte, sí, esta parte del cuerpo. Bien, exacto. And there it's that destination, that idea. What's the purpose? What's the end point of doing these exercises? La rodilla, your knee. Sí. Now, I will show you one way we may use para with gustar. But it's different than what you may think.
So
Okay.
in that example, para probably was okay.
Para is great there because you're telling what needs to be exercised, what part of the body receives the benefit of the exercise. Perfecto. There it's great. Sí. Some people may use gustar with this short phrase, para nada. Para nada, para nada, para nada, para nada for nothing. Okay. When people use para nada and tag it on, and you might hear this frequently with the verb gustar, amongst other things, but yeah. This is one instance where with gustar, you may hear para, but it's not just para with the verb, it's para nada, for nothing. Okay, so let's see if you can get how we would say this in English. No me gusta para nada limpiar los baños. No me gusta para nada limpiar los baños.
It sounds more like can't stand.
Eso, sí. Para nada. And it's not para with a verb, Cindy, like you were. It's para nada. It'll always be that combination. Para nada. I don't like for nothing. Okay. But we would say, I don't like it at all. Yeah. So when you mean not at all, it's para nada. And those two words have to hang together and they'll convey that idea. Sí, no me gusta para nada. Ooh, that is like intensifying no me gusta. Yeah. I don't even like it this much. I like it 0. Yeah. I like it for 0. Nothing at all. Pero es útil. Well, you know, we often say you don't like something at all. I mean, maybe I'm just a negative person. I often say I don't like something at all. Okay. Okay. Excelente. ¿Hay otras preguntas? Or are there other good examples you want to show?
Marilyn, in the future, is there a chance we could have a review of por versus para?
Sí. Claro. Yes. I'll build some things in next week for that. Por and para has a lot of it's kind of opening a can of worms, but but there are certain things you can hang your hat on that you can always be assured will be one thing or another. So, gracias. Sí, I will build some things in next week to talk about that. And certain phrases will just always use either por or para, and those just kind of have to be memorized. But there are certain kind of like big concept ideas that will help guide you on whether to use por or para. And one of the best things we can tell you is that never think of por and para as strictly the word for. Because in many cases, para doesn't really get translated as for, and por won't really be translated as for. And people, like, they read that and there are 2 words for. Para is one of them, por is the other one. And that's kind of true, but por and para carry big ideas. They are big concept words. And if you know the big concepts behind them, it'll be easier to figure out when to use them. And it's very hard for English speakers. It goes way back to Latin stuff. Okay.
I have the example here that I wanted to make sure that I, do it right here. Me gusta mucho ir a conciertos or a los conciertos.
A los conciertos. There I would use my los. Sí. Me gusta,
los
me gusta
conciertos is
mucho.
better.
But your placement of mucho is really good there because that's where mucho will go. Me gusta mucho. Right? When you like something a lot, that mucho word will always be behind gusta. Me gusta mucho ir a los conciertos. Sí.
Okay.
A los conciertos. Okay. Bien. Okay. Bueno, hay otros ejemplos. Any other examples that you think are really good, or any other questions you have on our 10 common verbs? And this is a good file to save somewhere and copy over in your files forever and ever and ever, because these 10 verbs you can endlessly combine with lots of other verbs to express a ton of ideas, right? When we talk about wanting to do things, when we talk about the ability or not having ability to do something. Tener, just super useful to say you actually own something, or in all of those idiomatic phrases. And that's maybe another thing we should revisit, the idiomatic uses of tener. What special, phrases we use with tener, ser and estar, the two verbs for to be, and then what we practice today. The only other thing I'm going to bring up before we leave this, unless you've got questions, is this little verb haber. Haber is you in this group are only going to use this as the one singular verb form, hay. Okay. Haber is kind of a double-edged sword. Haber means to have, but not like tener. And haber has two uses. So here's the one edge, at one edge of the double-edged sword. Haber can go into forms for yo and tú and nosotros and all those other people, but it's always used as what we call a compound tense. So haber, in the sense you are not going to use it, will be like I have, not in the sense of own. I have eaten already. Oh, my kids have left on the school bus. She has broken her dish. Has broken, have taken. Yeah, that kind of have. You guys in this group don't need to use that right now. It is common. It is super common in Spain. If you travel to Spain, it's good to know how to use those, because that is a tense that is super more common in Spain than it is in Latin America, although it's certainly not unused. The way that you are going to use it, however, is the impersonal. The other edge of the double-edged sword of haber is that haber is also used outside of the compound tense thing as an impersonal verb. Meaning, it only gets one form. It doesn't talk about yo and tú and él and ella, usted. It goes in a general form. And that general form will only be one form, and that form is hay. Okay. But it's hay is super useful because it just says that something is out there. Uy, hay lluvia. Wow, there is rain, meaning there are raindrops. Hay lluvia. Hay mascotas en mi casa. There are pets in my house. Hay muchos problemas para resolver. There are a lot of problems to solve. So it's a very general word, but general verb. And impersonal. It does not refer to any one human being. It refers to things in a general way. And often we use this in a combination of hay que, which means one must. It is a way of showing obligation. Hay que is a way of showing obligation that does not tag blame on anybody. Okay? Tener que shows obligation. Por ejemplo, tengo que estudiar. I have to study. Tengo que limpiar. Tengo que lavar la ropa. I have to wash clothing. Tengo que doblar la ropa. I have to fold the clothing. Okay. And it's very specific. It's talking about what I have to do. If a mom looks at her kids and she says, ustedes, niños, ustedes tienen que jugar. You have to play. Yeah. Go outside, right? Tienen que jugar. You look at your husband or wife, your media naranja, your better half. because your better half is your half orange, media naranja in Spanish. Tu media naranja, your better half. And you say, tienes que hacer ejercicio. You have to exercise. Now you're putting it on you. You're making that obligation strong by using tener que, because you're making it personal. You're conjugating it as tú. Tienes que hacer ejercicio. You have to exercise. You're squarely putting that on the shoulders of the person who is tú. Okay? Mi esposo tiene que hacer ejercicio. Marcos tiene que hacer ejercicio para la rodilla. He has to do exercises for his knee. And I'm putting that square on Marcos, okay? He's got to do that. And it's a strong obligation. But if you want to soft pedal the obligation, you use hay que and just an infinitive. So how is that different? It is different in that it doesn't address you as an individual. It just says one must. You in the most general, broadest sense of the word you. And it's not in your face personal. So, pues, hay que comprar ropa para la primavera. One must buy spring clothing. Not, you got nothing in your closet, you better get out there to the store, but just people in general. Hay que recoger los juguetes. One must pick up the toys. So if you want to look at your kids, but you don't want to like get in their face about it, it's just like saying, well, these toys have to be picked up. Hay que recoger los juguetes. Okay, so in English, we might soften it by saying, well, this has to get done. And you're not telling who has to do it. That's the purpose of hay que. Bien? Para que sepan. So you know what the hay que is about. I didn't ask you to do examples there. Okay. A ver. We've got our... we're going to move on to our next topic. Our next topic is this mayor versus más grande, all of that. So I'm going to bring up our screen with our, tengo que engrandecer. I've got to make this bigger so that we can actually read it. I had given you some things, and we'll go back and kind of recap first. Always a little review before we start. Por ejemplo, this differentiation between using más grande, bigger, and, when do we use that versus mayor or menor or, lo que sea, whatever. And actually, we should go back to our big Venn diagram thing, right? If you talk about people and you're talking about their size, you want grande, right? Más grande, to say bigger, right? Más grande won't say my big brother, meaning he's an older brother, right? Más grande will mean that person is actually physically bigger, taller, larger, right? But for people, when we talk about age, how old they are, then we don't use más grande. And, in English, we do this a lot. My big brother instead of my older brother. And those have the same meaning. My big brother and my older brother mean the same thing in English, but in Spanish, if you can't just flip out those words. If you talk about your big brother, it's got to be mayor, meaning he is the older one, right? Mi hermano mayor. La gente mayor, older people. Okay, instead of saying old people, you see, la gente mayor, older people. So when we talk about people, we have a real words to distinguish between age and size. And for things, it might be interchangeable, but it's a good rule of thumb to say you'll use más grande for size of things. Maybe you'll use mayor for abstract concepts, but if you're talking about age of items, like a car being older, or this clothing is older, that idea of más antiguo, or you might even use más viejo, maybe, but más antiguo gives it that idea of it's older in age. That's a frequent thing. Okay. Mayor is sometimes used in that kind of abstract concept field. So el mayor país, something, Brazil es el mayor país. You might hear Brazil is the biggest country with mayor because it is a major player, but you might hear it as más grande too. That there it might be interchangeable. Okay. Do you have any ways you might talk about these people versus each other, or the younger version versus the older version?
Jack Nicholson es mayor que Leonardo DiCaprio.
Yeah. Okay. So what did you come up with any ideas about these? So you can compare one guy with the other guy, one man with the other man, or the younger version of that man with the older version of that man, and talk about the picture on the left versus the picture on the right. A la izquierda on the left, a la derecha on the right. You can use whatever you want with this. Any ideas on these?
Jack-
I have it, I think, an abstract one. Jack Nicholson es una estrella más mayor que Leonardo DiCaprio.
And I would just say, and we won't use más with mayor. Ooh, I'm glad you brought just mayor. Es mayor estrella is a bigger star. Bigger meaning higher status. Been around more. Okay, so you might say Jack Nicholson es mayor estrella del cine. Sí, que, if we compare, que Leo DiCaprio. ¿Así? Bien? And that is a more abstract idea, and that's es buen ejemplo, Carrie. Sí, bien, me gusta. Okay, hay otras ideas. Any other ideas?
Leonardo DiCaprio es menos mayor que Jack Nicholson.
And then it'll just be menor.
Oh, okay.
Menor, yeah. So, wow, this is good. This came up. Mayor, meaning like bigger, major, or just older, or whatever. Mayor and its opposite, menor, because menor is the opposite of mayor.
Yeah, okay.
We can never use the word más with those two words. They just stand alone. Okay. Leo DiCaprio es menor que Jack Nicholson. Sí. Bien. Es menor. If I want to use the opposite, menor que Jack Nicholson. Okay. Bien.
Sí.
Ok, por ejemplo, tenemos dos fotos de Jack Nicholson, ¿sí? En la foto a la izquierda, the left photo, ¿sí? Jack Nicholson es menor en la foto a la izquierda que Es menor que, sí, es de menor edad. Yeah, he's a younger age, sí, es menor en la foto a la izquierda. Es mayor en la foto a la derecha. Es mayor, he's older. Es mayor en la foto a la derecha. ¿Bien?
Can you say tiene menos años?
Tiene menos años. Qué buena pregunta. Sí, es posible.
Okay.
Tiene menos años a la izquierda. He has fewer years. You can say that. But then you have to cobble together a bunch of extra words to say that. So essentially, it is easier, es más fácil decir, Jack Nichols es, Nichols. ¿Cómo es? Nicholson. Ok. Es menor en la foto a la izquierda. Es menor en la foto a la izquierda. Es menor. He's younger. Tiene menos años. Yeah, but then you got to cobble together tiene menos años. Bunch of words. Yeah, and it's a little bit easier to say es menor. He's younger. Es más. Okay.
El hombre a la derecha es más antiguo or viejo or viejo.
Es mayor.
Es mayor.
Es mayor. Yeah, see, when we talk about people and we talk about he's older, it'll be es mayor. Es mayor. Mi abuelo es mayor que mi papá. My grandpa is older than my dad. Obvio, ¿sí? Pero es mayor. Jack Nicholson es mayor que Leo DiCaprio. ¿Sí? Older than. When we talk about human beings, they don't generally, I mean, you may in some really isolated, specialized circumstance, yeah, you might hear somebody, but you're going to hear mayor, older. Yeah. For people, mayor is really the favored way to say that. I'll give you another example of the antiguo thing in just a bit here to help you along. Oh, it's a little bit of a struggle, isn't it? See? Es un poquito difícil. Let me give you a different example.
So viejo versus antiguo, or are they similar, just different shades?
I would say there's similar different shades, but antiguo sounds better. Okay, I'll give you an example here. Un ejemplo. Más antiguo, algo con más antiguo. Por ejemplo, las pirámides de Yucatán son más antiguas que la catedral de Notre Dame o la catedral de la Ciudad de México, mejor. Perdón. I got my hands on the wrong keys here. En la Ciudad de México. Las pirámides de Yucatán son más antiguas que la catedral de la Ciudad de México. The pyramids in Yucatan are older than the Cathedral of Mexico City. Okay. Here we're talking about a thing. Okay. And we're actually talking about how long ago this thing was built, right? Essentially, what really is older. Okay. Now, getting to the idea of maybe concepts, you could say, las pirámides not just talking about their age with más antiguas, but about them being going to a bigger concept thing, like son mayor ejemplo de arquitectura. See? They're a greater, mayor in the idea of greater, right? Mayor ejemplo de arquitectura. They're a greater example of architecture, even though they're ancient. Yeah, but we're not really talking about their age. So that's kind of an example of how you might use mayor in a more abstract kind of way, or you may hear people use, especially when people are taking you on tours. Okay. Bien. How about any comparisons here? Comparing one country to another country, either way. Any examples with mayor or más grande? And we're not talking about human beings here. We're talking about countries, actual physical land masses.
Brasil es más grande que todos los países de Europa.
Ok. Sí. Excelente. Me gusta mucho, sí. You might hear people say Brasil es el mayor país de Sudamérica. You might hear el mayor país, the greatest country, or es el país más grande. That's the difference, the biggest size country. Yeah. Okay. Bien.
How about this one? Luxembourg es un de más pequeña de las otras. I don't know. How do I say
Okay.
it's one of the smallest?
Okay. Okay, bien. And here we're going to be using some opposites from those grande words, right? Pequeño. Bien. Okay, por ejemplo, Luxembourg. Luxemburgo, creo. Luxemburgo es el país más pequeño de Europa. Por ejemplo, no sé si, I don't really know if it is the smallest, but yeah, close enough. Luxemburgo es el país más pequeño de Europa. Más pequeño there, and we're going the opposite from más grande, right? Más pequeño will be smallest, right?
In that example, could you say Luxemburgo es un de los más pequeños países de Europa?
That's what I was trying
Sí.
to say. One of the smallest.
Luxemburgo es one de los países
Okay.
más pequeños de Europa. ¿Sí? Luxemburgo y Mónaco son los países más pequeños de Europa, por ejemplo.
Y la Ciudad Vaticana.
Otra vez.
Well, Vatican City is also.
Oh, sí, la ciudad, sí, el Vaticano, sí, el Vaticano es uno de los países más pequeños de Europa, sí, porque técnicamente sí, es un país, tiene un pasaporte y todo eso, sí. Técnicamente sí, es país, ok. Exacto. Bueno, por ejemplo, sí, Alemania y Francia son dos de los países más grandes de Europa. ¿Sí? Bien.
And how would you say about the same size or the same size?
Francia y, Francia y Alemania son dos países del mismo tamaño, mismo, same, mismo tamaño, T-A-M-A-N-O, tamaño, of the same size. You might also say Francia y Alemania son parecidos, are alike, son parecidos en el tamaño. They are similar in size. Así, bien. Bien. But if we use mayor to talk about any of those countries, it'll carry the idea of like a major country. Okay. Por ejemplo, so it'll have a little different connotation if we talk about a thing with the word mayor. Entonces, por ejemplo, Alemania tiene mayor influencia en la Unión Europea. Germany has great influence, has greater influence, right? In the EU. Tiene mayor influencia, has higher status, greater influence. Okay, bien. Let's talk about some things. Let's talk about some things. Not countries and not people, right? We want to keep mayor to abstract big concepts or mayor to people. But the big thing to think about mayor is people, human beings. And now we don't have human beings. Bien. Okay, teléfonos. What might we say about all these tenemos 3 tipos de teléfonos, 4 teléfonos. Hay 4 teléfonos. There are 4 phones, pero hay 3 tipos de teléfonos, ¿verdad? Sí.
Los dos celulares en la izquierda son más younger, mejor.
Son mejor. Los 2 teléfonos a la izquierda, on the left.
Sí.
Son mejores, are better?
Younger, less.
Oh, okay.
Newer.
Mejor que los
son más modernos.
más modernos.
Yeah, sí, más modernos, son nuevos,
Que
los dos
pues, a la derecha.
Los 2 teléfonos a la izquierda son nuevos, son más modernos que los teléfonos a la derecha.
Yeah.
Sí, ok. Si hablamos de este teléfono aquí, sí, el negro o los 2, ok, y el teléfono azul, ok, ¿qué podemos decir? What can we say about these 2? A la derecha, los teléfonos, los a la derecha, the ones on the right, son
Rotario.
Son
I don't know the word, but
mayores.
something like rotario.
Oh, sí, eso es, sí, la manera de marcar. the way of marking the numbers. Sí, son
Mayores.
más
Son-
antiguos. Here's
Antiguos.
where antiguos makes sense.
Right.
Son más antiguos. Los a la derecha, the ones on the, los a la derecha, ¿sí? On the right. Los a la derecha son más antiguos. They are older. And we can't use mayor here because mayor really talks about people. So if we mean these are old models, which is what we mean, the kind that were invented a long time ago, okay? And they are older types of devices than the cell phones, then we say son más antiguos. Son más antiguos.
Like
Aquí,
los
este,
celulares.
ah,
Can I try
son
that?
más antiguos que los celulares, than the cell phones.
So I'm trying. Los celulares son menos grande que los teléfonos fijos.
Ah, son menos grandes. They're not as big. Eso sí, exacto. Son menos grandes. Eso me gusta. Sí, exacto. So there are a lot of ways we can compare these phones, right? Los celulares son menos grandes. They're not as big, so they're less big. Son menos grandes que los antiguos teléfonos. Sí, bien. Could you say viejos teléfonos? Yes, you could. Sí. But antiguos would just carry with it that kind of more subtle idea of antique, as in, do we use these much anymore? Not as much as we used to. Yeah. Eso es. Okay. Es buen ejemplo. That's an excellent example. Es muy buen ejemplo.
El celular a la izquierda es más pequeño de el celular a la derecha.
Sí, bien. Okay. También buen ejemplo. Si queremos comparar, if we want to compare el celular a la izquierda con el celular a la derecha, sí, el celular a la izquierda es
Más pequeño
es más pequeño
de el celular a la derecha.
and
Okay.
here we'll use, instead of the word de, the word que.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. And this is one of those sequence of words things you have to know with comparisons. If we name the two things we're comparing, que will be the word we use to link those. Es más pequeño que el a la derecha. And notice I can just use the word el and drop the word celular, because celular is just repetitive, and el there will just mean not only the, but the one on. El a la derecha means the one on the right. El celular a la izquierda es más pequeño que el a la derecha. Excelente. Bien. Ok. Podemos decir, por ejemplo, con el celular aquí, que como un cilindro, like a cylinder look to it, sí. Este teléfono negro de forma de cilindro, sí, es más antiguo que el teléfono azul. El teléfono negro aquí es más antiguo que el azul, the blue one, que el azul. Bien. Okay. Es más antiguo. It is older. That is the oldest form of phone that you see in that group. Okay. Bueno. ¿Alguna pregunta? Any question about those? Just so you know, mayor, keep it to people or to big abstract concept things. Yeah. You know, you can say Jack Nicholson es el mayor actor de su generación. He is like the major player in his generation. Yeah. But mayor, meaning es mayor que Leo DiCaprio, is older than. Okay. You can probably also say más grande. He's bigger because he's a bigger guy. You can be snide about it too. But yeah, remember, más grande could be snide, a snide observation, depending
I'm
on
not going to
what you're
stand up a
meaning.
minute.
Yeah. So, okay. Está bien.
Está bien. Sure.
Bueno, okay. Hay otra pregunta. Any other little question about any of those? Sí o no?
Keep it to abstract or to people.
Right.
Yeah.
See,
Okay.
okay. Let's do a little fun with and I got
I
the wrong
noticed that
trivia
you
game
said
up.
marque.
Okay.
In my brain, I keep hearing marque nueve.
Marque nuez, yeah. And you might hear different, you know, yeah, when you hear those things, when they say, you know, dial a certain number to get Spanish, yeah, you'll hear them use the word marque to mean dial, or oprima, which means press, press one. Yeah, press one. You'll hear oprima for press, or marque for mark. And both of those mean like press a number. That's what they do. Okay. Bueno. Okay. A ver. Let's do some trivia fun. Trivia fun.
Hey.
Una prueba de trivia. ¿Qué opinas just means, what do you think? Opinar means to have an opinion. So when people ask, what do you think? They might ask it as, ¿cómo te parece? Or ¿qué piensas? Or ¿qué crees? Or ¿qué opinas? ¿Qué opinas? What do you think? What's your opinion? Ooh. ¿Cuál fue? Ooh, and we've got some answers in here. I didn't mean to. Oh, no. We did that one. These are the new ones. Sí. Las nuevas preguntas. Okay. ¿Cuántas papillas gustativas? And look, it's a gusta thing. It's something that talks about taste. ¿Cuántas papillas gustativas hay? Aproximadamente. En la lengua humana. Promedia means average. Promedia es average. ¿Cuántas papillas gustativas hay? Are there? Not I que, just I. We're just talking about they exist. Aquí. 100, 1000,
Sí.
10,000, 100,000.
10,000.
100,000.
100,000, 10,000.
10,000.
¿Alguien dice 100, sí o no?
No.
100.
No,
No, 100. No.
definitivamente no. Ok. Bueno, la respuesta es 10,000.
Oh.
Sí.
10,000, 10,000, 10,000. Ok. Siguiente. Next.
But if
Ay,
you
no me
Google it, it's
digas. Wow.
100,000 though.
Es un número enorme en la lengua, es enorme, ¿sí? Hay 10,000, ok. Son muy pequeñas las papillas gustativas. Las papillas gustativas son como se necesita un microscópico. Ok. ¿Quién
Wait,
descubrió? Sí.
Lingua, I thought that meant language, and I
It
did type
does.
it in, and it does say language.
It does mean language. It means both. As we say, a mother tongue. What was his mother tongue? Yeah. So lengua, as part of the body, means tongue, that part of your body. And it can also mean language. There are two words for language in Spanish.
Idioma.
One is, idioma, and then it's el idioma,
Oh,
and la lengua. La lengua española, el idioma español. Así, like that. Sí. Curioso, curious. They have two words for language. Okay. Siguiente. Next. ¿Quién descubrió? Who discovered? Los anillos de Saturno. ¿Quién descubrió? Y tenemos cuatro hombres.
Galileo.
Galileo, sí. Esto es más
Galileo.
fácil. This is easier than our papillas gustativas, ¿sí? Es más fácil. Okay. ¿Cuál es el equipo profesional que jugó más? Played in the most. Does not say one, folks. Does not say one. Played. Que
Los
jugó más en el Super Bowl. Los Packers de Wisconsin, los Vaqueros, Cowboys, los Vaqueros de Dallas, los Patriotas de Nueva Inglaterra o los Broncos de Denver.
Los
Patriotas.
patriotas.
De Nueva
Patriotas.
Los Patriotas. La respuesta es los Patriotas. Sí, jugó más. They played the most. Jugó más en el Super Bowl. Ok. Aquí también anillos, rings, anillos. ¿Cuántos anillos tiene? How many rings does it have? ¿Cuántos anillos tiene la bandera de los Juegos Olímpicos? 7, 5, 6 o 3.
5.
Cinco.
La bandera tiene 5.
Sí, bandera, flag, sí, es la
No
bandera.
Marilyn.
Ni
Marilyn.
idea. Bien. Bueno, la
Mi-
respuesta es 5. Hay 5. La bandera de los Juegos Olímpicos tiene 5 anillos, porque continente tiene que ver con los continentes. Antártica no tiene equipo olímpico, creo, pero 7, no sé. Ok, pero
Mi esposo engañado, él pregunta abajo. My
abajo,
husband
the one
cheated
below.
on the question above about the Super Bowl.
Oh, sí. Okay.
He looked it up. He
sí.
cheated. Mi esposo
Okay. Sí.
engañado.
Okay. Y son
You
los
told us not to
patriotas,
look
¿no?
it up, but he did.
Sí. Pues sí. Muchas veces los hombres ya saben. A lot of time, guys know more about the sports thing in general, en general, sí. Bueno, ¿cuántos hombres han caminado en la luna de la Tierra? And here we see han caminado. Here we see haber used as have walked, but I can't use the have without the walked. They have to be verbs that are together. Have walked. ¿Cuántos hombres han caminado? Have walked. En la luna de la Tierra. 8 o 10 o 20 o 12.
12.
12.
12.
Son 12.
12, son 12,
Sí, 12. 12 hombres Han caminado, have walked, han caminado en la luna de la tierra. Sí, exacto.
Who are
Bien.
they?
¿Y quiénes
Yes.
fueron? Wow. Armstrong,
Armstrong.
obviamente. Aldrin. Y quizás Shepard, no sé. No sé todos los nombres.
But the next two are Pete Conrad and Alan Bean.
Ok. ¿Quiénes fueron? Sí. Es buena pregunta. Tengo que ver otro día. I gotta check that out another day. Sí.
Tiene un liste, tiene un liste.
Una lista. ¿Tienes una
Sí.
lista? ¿Quiénes fueron? Who were they?
Buzz Aldrin, Pete Conrad, James Irwin, Neil Armstrong, Alan Bean, Alan Shepard, Charles Duke, David Scott.
Wow.
Let's see, Edgar Mitchell, Harrison Schmidt, no, Gene Cernan, Richard
Gene
Gordon,
Cernan.
and Bill Anders.
Wow. Okay.
Some of those names are not even the least bit familiar.
No,
Awful.
no.
Todos
No,
hombres,
Son, sí.
todos
Y es
hombres
triste,
blancos.
qué triste que no sabemos todos los nombres de todos los hombres, ¿sí? Guy, ok. Debíamos de saber, we ought to know, pero muchas veces, yeah, we don't know everybody, ¿sí? Neil Armstrong, el gran, muy famoso, el hombre muy famoso que fue el primer hombre de estar en la luna. First guy to be on the moon. Okay. Bien. I was going to look at our angry video. We're going to have to come back to that. I want to preview something. I'm going to send you some information. And, we'll start to dip into the Purampara thing for you, Jan, because actually that is a useful and helpful thing to know. But I want to kind of preview something. I'm going to give you a little bit. A video. See. I'll give you this I'm going to show you. Now, I send you this with a little bit of trepidation. This is going to be the video I will send you to watch. I'm going to give you kind of a precursor. There are going to be some terms used here that you should kind of tuck into don't even tuck it in your back pocket because it's not that useful. People love to use these terms, but don't bust a gut over them. Because for your purposes, they are not helpful. However, her explanation is super good.
Yeah.
But here's what I'm going to tell you. Even though these terms are in like great big letters, tuck them under your hat. You're never going to use them. She's going to talk about why accent marks happen. And actually, she has a very good explanation of why accent marks happen. But do not worry about these huge, blasting, blaring titles of aguda or grave or esdrújula or sobre esdrújula. Don't ignore that. Ignore that part of it because those terms matter to linguists. They kind of matter to teachers when you get to a high level, but they don't matter for you. So if the big titles don't matter, why am I going to send you that video? Because she does a good job of explaining why accent marks happen. So here's what I'm going to explain to you ahead of time. accent marks, it's useful to know some things about accent marks, and we're going to introduce some of that, and I'm going to give you a lot of examples next week. So listen to the video and just kind of let it wash over you. You may need to listen to it a couple of times. But basically, what I want to show you is that accent marks are a written thing, but it's important to know, especially when you hear about certain verbs or certain words that will carry these accent marks. Por ejemplo, for example, all of the interrogatives, who, what, when, where, why. Yeah, those words that are interrogative, question words. The who, what, when, where, why questions, when they're written out, they always have an accent mark. They just do. So who, what, when, where, why. Yeah. And when they're used, and this is kind of an important subtext thing, when they're used as a question word, they will carry an accent mark, and they just do. Okay. And we'll talk about, there are little words that always carry an accent mark, and they just do, but I'll show you those next week. But accent marks do not change the pronunciation of a letter. Okay. So the important thing to know about accent marks, number one, the accent marks do not change the way you pronounce the letter. Okay. They change only how much force you give a syllable. Okay. And why is that important? That's important so that you put the right emphasis on the syllable that, yeah, the right emphasis on the syllable is a thing, because otherwise you're going, what did that person say? Okay. An exam has a different stress point in English than examination. Okay. In English, there's no way. You just got to know. But in Spanish, you know. Okay. Most words, the majority of words in Spanish don't need an accent mark. Okay. Accent marks happen only on vowels. Only on vowels. A-E-I-O-U, no place else. And they happen to tell you, an accent mark happens in order to show you in writing that the way we pronounce the word is breaking the rule of standard pronunciation. There are standard rules, and there are only 2 of them. There are only 2. Okay. And if the way we pronounce the word breaks one of those 2 rules, we've got to write in an accent mark. And that serves the purpose of showing you, ooh, we're breaking the rule. And here is the syllable we punch harder instead, because you wouldn't know it otherwise. Okay. So that is the purpose that an accent mark serves. It does not change the sound of the A-E-I-O-U. A-E-I-O-U will always be right. Okay. And here is the nutshell for you to think about. The nutshell, the core is the last letter of every single word. And it doesn't matter if it's a noun or an adjective or a verb, anything. If the last letter of a word is a vowel, A-E-I-O-U, or the letter N as in Nancy, or the letter S as in Sam, the natural way we stress that word in Spanish is to give more emphasis to the second to last syllable. Second to last syllable. I'll give you a quick example so you can see what that means. So I want you to kind of think about this when you watch the video, and we'll see lots of examples.
Okay.
Oh, the word examen ends, let's see, vowel or N or S. Oh, vowel or N or S. This follows in that rule. So second to the last syllable is what we punch harder.
Okay.
Examen. And that follows the rule. Examen. Okay. Okay. Let's take a longer word. Oh, ends in a vowel. We should be punching the second to the last syllable. Amarillo. Amarillo. Yeah, we do. Yes, that obeys the rule. Amarillo. Let's take another word. Verde. Ends in a vowel. We punch this syllable more, harder. Verde. It's not verde, it's verde, right? It's not amarillo, it's amarillo, amarillo, right? Second to last. And when the word obeys that rule, we don't need an accent mark. But I want you to hear what happens here. Ooh, and it booted me out. When I make this word plural in this particular word, not every plural word, but this particular word. Oh, ends in an S, vowel, N or S. Oh, okay, that category. But now that would mean I have to say exámenes. Exámenes doesn't sound right. The way we pronounce that word is exámenes. And now that's the last, second to last, third to last. To show that the way we pronounce that word, once I make that particular word plural, changes the stress pattern, I have to write in where that syllable is that will get the stress. That is the job of an accent mark. That's the job. Okay, let's look at one other word to show you it breaks the rule. The word for nice, simpático, simpático. The way we pronounce this is simpático. But if you look at it, it ends in a vowel. The rule says if it ends in a vowel or N or S, you stress the second to last syllable. But that's not the way we pronounce the word. The way we pronounce the word breaks the rule. So we have to actually have a written accent mark to show if we're breaking the rule, where do we put the punch? And that's the job of the accent mark, simpático. So, okay, bien. Words that we have to always look to the last letter. And if the last letter of any word at all is a vowel or N or S, we stress this, we will naturally stress the second to last syllable. That's the rule. If the way we pronounce breaks that rule, we need to write in the accent mark to show which syllable does get the stress so people know. Okay, but now if I say if the last letter is a vowel or N or S, wait a minute, I still got a bunch of letters left in the alphabet, right? If the last letter is anything else, any other letter, whoop. If it's any other letter, meaning it's not a vowel, it's not N, it's not S, then you stress the very last syllable. Okay. So, por ejemplo, we've got words like abril. Abril. Doesn't end in a vowel or N or S, it ends in that. So we punch the last syllable, abril, and we do. I don't need an accent mark, abril. Rapidez, rapidez, fastness, velocity, yeah, rapidez. Doesn't end in an N or an S, and we punch the end. Fluidez. Fluidez, yeah. Fluid, being fluid, yeah, fluidez.
Español.
Punch the end. Yeah. Español. Yeah. Okay. We don't need an accent mark. It obeys that rule, right? But then you get to a word like this. And it's not difícil. We don't say that word difícil. So we say it difícil, difícil. The way we say it breaks the rule. So I have to write an accent mark over the vowel that will get a bigger punch. Difícil, difícil. Okay, bien? That, in a nutshell, is the big picture. And we'll have some little smaller ancillary things that are helpful to know. Okay, but those are the big rules. And she's going to show you a lot of examples with those big rules. And bien. And that will kind of help you figure out what's going on there. And we'll talk about pot and para a little bit more too. I'll find a little fun listening video. We'll come back to the mad mom. We didn't quite fit that in. I didn't want to cut it too short there. So, okay. Todo bien? All good?
Okay.
Todo bien? I'll give you a little fun story video. I got to see which new ones are coming out yet today, because there'll be some new ones published every Monday. And we'll pick a fun one for you to listen to for the coming week, just for listening comprehension, to see that you can follow the general idea. Nada más, nothing else. Okay? Todo bien?
Sí, bien.
Bien.
Muchas gracias.
Gracias.
Excelente.
Gracias.
Excelente.